Oklahoma quarterback Caleb Williams became yet another Sooners player to leave the team and enter the transfer portal following the departure of Lincoln Riley in November. But, give Williams some credit. At least he waited until after winning a bowl game. He joins the quarterback he replaced, Spencer Rattler, and a number of other key offensive players in deciding to move on from the program, though he did say he would consider a return if other options did not pan out. Williams completed 65% of his passes for 1,916 yards and 21 touchdowns with only 4 interceptions as a freshman in 2021. He also added 79 rushes for 442 yards and 6 scores. The true freshman said on Twitter, "With all of the recent changes, I need to figure out what is the right path for me moving forward." So let's talk about that potential path with 24/7 Sports transfer portal guru Chris Hummer. Chris, Williams' father said developing into an NFL quarterback is why his son chose OU. And with Jeff Lebby brought in, it's not like that was going to change much. Lebby being credited with the emergence of Matt Corral at Ole Miss. He'll have no shortage of suitors. Will Williams, Chris, what are some of the most realistic landing spots for him at this point outside of Oklahoma?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing. I've heard over and over and over again that name, image, and likeness for Caleb Williams does not matter. It is all about NFL development. They're thinking about the long-term paycheck, not the short-term one. And with Oklahoma, I think the concern is with Jeff Lebby's system, which is a bit of a veer and shoot. It's an offshoot of the Baylor system that Art Briles ran back in the day. Jeff Lebby is Art Briles' son-in-law. Is that quarterbacks in that system historically have not gone on to great NFL success, and Caleb Williams is looking for a landing spot that provides an avenue to that. The Williams family is on vacation right now. He's not officially in the transfer portal, so nobody can contact him officially as of yet. Some schools I've heard thrown around, I know our Brandon Huffman, our national recruiting editor, has reported UCLA as an option. I've heard Auburn, which just hired Russell Wilson's QB coach as its new offensive coordinator, could open up as an option. Joe Brady is a name floating around out there, the former LSU and Carolina Panthers offensive coordinator. He and Caleb Williams are very tight during the recruiting process. If Joe Brady ends up in college, which is, I would say, only a slight possibility, I would watch out for whatever school he goes to. LSU was a school heavily in the mix for Caleb Williams at first. I think that's a potential landing spot. It's pretty unclear right now. Unlike Quinn Ewers, who entered the portal with only a few schools in mind, Caleb Williams is pretty open to anything. I think Maryland might end up entering that mix with Mike Locksley as well, and being from that state. So there's just a lot of places he could end up. I haven't even mentioned USC. I think a lot of people view that as a lock. I don't think it's quite to that point. But Caleb Williams has no shortage of options, and he's the number 1 player in the portal for a reason. And if he wants to go somewhere, they're going to make room for him.
Yeah, any team that has any type of playoff aspirations for next season will certainly be looking at Caleb Williams if they need a quarterback. Still with the Sooners, freshman wide receiver Mario Williams had 2 catches for 33 in that Alamo Bowl win, but he's also decided to move on, joining teammate Jaden Hazelwood in the portal. So what's next for Williams?
Yeah, Mario was a top 50 prospect in the 2021 class. He was viewed as one of the most dynamic receivers in the country during that process, and I think he showed a lot of that at Oklahoma as a true freshman. I think him following Caleb Williams is a possibility, but I know all the schools in Florida, and Mario is from the Florida area, is going to come after Mario really strongly. I think Miami is a really strong option there, but he's the number 1 receiver in the portal for us at 24/7 Sports. He is not going to have shortage of shooters either. And I would just kind of watch where Caleb Williams goes and where Mario Williams goes, because those two are very close and they've been connected for a long time.
Sooners have taken a number of hits to their wide receiver core and quarterbacks. They'll certainly be looking for some new recruits this offseason. Okay, we mentioned Ole Miss losing offensive coordinator Jeff Lebby to the Sooners. You talked about it. They may be about to add a new running back, though. Former TCU standout Zach Evans leaning towards joining Lane Kiffin. And the 24/7 crystal ball has been updated, Chris. So what does he bring to the Rebels?
Yeah, Zach is one of the most dynamic running backs in the country, without much question. At one point in the 2019 class, he was the number 1 overall player in the country in the 24/7 Sports composite. That's what type of talent he is. Zach is considered on the field a generational running back talent. He averaged 7 yards per carry at TCU across 2 seasons, and if you put him in Lane Kiffin's system, I think that number could only increase. They run the ball really well with what they do in that system. So I think Zach is a perfect fit at Ole Miss. I know TCU's trying to put a Hail Mary out there and keep him in the boat. They've been trying to do that for a while now. I don't know how likely that is, but I've heard from multiple sources that Ole Miss is the likely landing spot. and Zach could be deciding very soon. I don't expect this to drag out much longer. I think Ole Miss starts classes on the 18th, I believe, and as of right now, I expect him to be a Rebel. I think he'll start right away and be one of the best running backs in the SEC from the jump.
Yeah, you see at the bottom there, his numbers: rushed for 1,063 yards and 9 touchdowns in 2 seasons with TCU. Transfer portal entries are not just in the FBS either. FCS players are also hitting the open market. One of those is Incarnate Word quarterback Cameron Ward. 6'3", 220 pounds, a junior, had an outstanding season, setting a number of school records. He was named Southland Offensive Player of the Year. He's got 3 years of eligibility remaining. How attractive is Ward as he enters the portal here, Chris?
Yeah, I've had multiple Power 5 and Group of 5 coaches and recruiting personnel members tell me they view Cameron Ward as a generational quarterback prospect. And our ranking with him reflects that. He ranks behind only Caleb Williams and Quinn Ewers in terms of QBs in the transfer portal right now. He won the same Jerry Rice Award, which is given to the best true freshman in the SES, that Trey Lance did in 2019. He was the 2020 winner, and he only got better as a sophomore. He ran the wing tee in high school, was totally under the radar, didn't have an offer until 1 week before National Signing Day as a recruit, but now Ole Miss has offered him. He's on campus at Washington State as we speak. His former Incarnate Word head coach, Eric Morris, is the new offensive coordinator there. That seems like a really natural fit if he chooses to go that direction. But I know schools like Indiana, Virginia Tech, Arizona is looking at him as well. There are a number of schools that are really high on Cameron Ward. He might take a little longer to make an impact on the field than some of the other quarterbacks we're talking about. When you talk about his ceiling, he is a legitimate day one NFL prospect with the talent he has in his right arm and with his frame, which is exactly what you look for in an NFL prototype.
And plenty of eligibility left for a program that wants to have him come in. Lastly, Colonial Athletic Association's Defensive Rookie of the Year, Jared Verse, a dominant presence this fall, 11.5 tackles for loss, 9.5 sacks. He's emerged as one of the top young pass rushers in the FCS. He's one of the hottest names in the portal. How close is he to a decision?
Well, Jared told me over the weekend that it would be in a matter of days, and I would expect him to have a decision by the end of the day or perhaps tomorrow. Jared is the top overall uncommitted defensive prospect in the portal for us. He's a legitimate future NFL player off the edge. Like Cameron Ward, he was totally off the radar as a recruit, but he blew up in 3 seasons at Albany, and now everybody in the country pretty much wants him. I will say Florida State and Tennessee were 2 of the teams to get on him earliest, and I think those are 2 of the teams at the top of his list. He's played things pretty close to the best, but I would keep an eye out on both of those programs. They've really sold him with their visions for with their vision for him and what he can do. They sold him on development, and especially at a place like FSU, which just had Jermaine Johnson go from Georgia backup to likely first or second day pick. Jared Verse sees that, and he sees that development. I think he sees a similar path for himself at a place like FSU or Tennessee. So I would watch out for those 2 schools, but plenty of other programs like Miami, LSU, USC, Texas, Oklahoma have tried to enter the mix late. So he's got a who's who of everybody kind of going after him.
The evolution of the transfer portal over the last 4 years has certainly made the college football offseason more intriguing. I mean, yes, some big teams are losing some big players like Oklahoma with coaching changes, but then you have other players like we talk about in the FCS that are finding new opportunities with Power 5 schools based on what they've been able to do at a level underneath the FBS. How has the portal changed the landscape of college football?
Oh, it's altered it completely. Like, I feel like it used to be kind of slow once you got past February. Now the portal just keeps things going for the entire offseason. It's literally insane. I had a player personnel director at a Power 5 school tell me this morning that it's totally out of control. There's talks about reeling it back in, maybe having a transfer window where there's a certain amount of time the players can enter and exit the portal. But we have, I think, just under 1,500 FBS players in the portal right now. That's conservatively like 10 to 15% of FBS scholarship players have entered the portal this offseason, and we're not even close to done. So it's completely altered the way teams look at roster management. There are several schools last year that took 1 or 2 high school players, period, as they loaded up on transfers. It's changed the way perennial powers look at their rosters. Alabama has Eli Ricks and Jahmyr Gibbs committed for next year. So the top cornerback in the transfer portal and the top running back in the transfer portal are going to Alabama. Alabama's probably going to be better next year than they are this year because of the transfer portal. And teams all over the place are upgrading rosters and changing the look of their rosters in a flash in a way you couldn't do before because of all of the players in the portal and the opportunities that provides. So it's totally altered the way roster construction works in college football, and it's totally changed the entire landscape. It's really difficult to put into words like how much this has changed things.
The sport of football has a transfer window. It'd be interesting if the sport of college football ends up getting a transfer window as well. Chris Summer, great to see you. Thanks for joining us, our 24/7 Sports Transfer Portal guru. And for more from the portal and college recruiting, be sure to check out 24/7 Sports for all the latest news and profiles. The industry-leading composite index giving you a national perspective on recruits and transfers. As Chris said, it's been incredibly busy and will continue to be so. Head over to 247sports.com for all of that and plenty more.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.